The Jam app is an easy-to-use user interface to allow you to interact with Joinmarket, which enables you to then anonymize or break the links between you and your Bitcoin. Today we're going to take a look at how to set up, use, and interpret what's happening with the Jam app. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions, and this is your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.
Before we dive in, quick shout out to sponsors of the show, coinkite.com. These guys have the best damn hardware in the game. I love the Cold Card Mark IV for securing my Bitcoin stack. It's hard to beat, and I've got full tutorials on how to use it. Now, they've also got a bunch of other stuff, including things like the Open Dime, the Block Clock, Sats cards, tab signers, backup methods, tons of great stuff here. So don't miss it all. Check it out at coinkite.com, and you can use code BTC Sessions to get 5% off at checkout. Up next, we've got Start9.com, your sovereign computing solution. Now we're going to be utilizing Start9, the embassy, in this video today, but of course, again, Jam is available on a variety of different interfaces. Nonetheless, Start9 is knocking it out of the park. I've covered them in terms of building your Bitcoin stack. So I mean, using things like Bitcoin Core, running your own Lightning node, and running a ton of other peripherals to help keep your Bitcoin self-sovereign. Now, that's not the only thing that they're good for. You can also take self-sovereignty over your data, things like passwords and files and pictures and documents, all kinds of different stuff. And you can do it through the Start9 Embassy. You can pick up one from them today at start9.com. You've got two flavors. You've got the Embassy One and the Embassy Pro if you're looking for a beefier device in order to host your digital life on it. Be sure to check them out. And yeah, these guys, again, are killing the game. Up next, if you're purchasing Bitcoin, and you have a few things that are very important to you, things like peer-to-peer trading, things like non-KYC, things like self-custody, right off the hop, then HodlHodl is the place to go. You can sign up in minutes with nothing more than an email address, and you can be trading peer-to-peer and getting your Bitcoin without having to give up all of your personal information in the process, and that is mighty attractive. I've done a full tutorial on how to use them. It's great to purchase your Bitcoin non-KYC. It's great to offload if you do need dollars or your local currency. They've got a ton of different possible payment methods, and they also have a lending platform. So if you're looking to do some lending and you don't want to have your funds rehypothecated, well, there's your solution right there as well. So be sure to check out HodlHodl.com. I have a link in the show notes down below if you want to sign up and give it a try. And finally, if you're backing up any important Bitcoin wallet, be sure to get it in solid steel, my friends, because pieces of paper just do not cut it. If you have it in paper, you have to worry about things like fire damage, water damage, all of that stuff. And so if you back it up in something like the Billfodl over at privacypros.io, you can have that peace of mind. This is how I'm backing up my important Bitcoin wallets, and you should check them out. Again, privacypros.io/BTC Sessions if you want a little bonus at the checkout. And of course, finally, if the free tutorials on this website or on my channel are not enough, you can always book me for private one-on-one sessions to get in-depth one-on-one help with whatever it may be, whether it be this topic or any other. Head over to btcsessions.ca to check that out. But without further ado, let's dive into the tutorial. So let's get some prerequisites out of the way. And I want to start by kind of clarifying what Jam and Joinmarket does for an individual user of Bitcoin. As I said in the intro, it helps break the link between you and your Bitcoin. So why this might be useful is because every time that you go and you spend or you send Bitcoin somewhere, then it can potentially link you to the rest of your Bitcoin, not just the Bitcoin you're spending. Much like cash, Bitcoin functions in a way where if you go to spend it, not only can you spend and see, not only can the merchant see the amount that you spent with them, but they also see the change from that transaction. They can also then see whatever that change commingles with in subsequent transactions moving forward. So when you take this concept and you think of the idea of purchasing Bitcoin on an exchange where somebody knows who you are and you provided KYC, if that's how you've obtained your Bitcoin, if that exchange information is compromised, then somebody can see the coins that you purchased and then also see what you do with them subsequently after and paint a picture of all the Bitcoin that you own. And so it's important to keep a mind on privacy when utilizing Bitcoin. And so what applications like Joinmarket and the Jam app do is they help break the link between the Bitcoin that you have and where it goes forward facing from the moment that you use the service. So we are going to be diving in, as I said, to the Jam app, which is just a user interface to utilize Joinmarket. And this application, it is running on a variety of different node implementations. So you do need to be running your own Bitcoin node. Now, if you're not, I do have full tutorials on that. There's a variety of different options. Today, we're going to be using the Start9 Embassy. Okay, but just to clarify, it is currently available as of the time of recording this. It's obviously available on the Start9, but it's available on Umbrel, Citadel, Raspberry Blitz, and MyNode as well. So if you're running any of those, it'll more or less be the same. You install the app and then you're up and running, and the interface should more or less be the exact same across the experiences, barring updates and upgrades after this video is published. All right. So again, the user interface we'll go through in a little bit, but a couple little things here I just want to clarify in and around what else you're going to need to know. If you're running a node, then you're kind of already familiar with probably how to install applications and things like that. Outside of your node and downloading the Jam app onto your node, we're going to also be utilizing Sparrow wallet just as like a demo external wallet to send back and forth from. Okay, so if you're curious about Sparrow wallet, I have a full tutorial on that as well. But in terms of prerequisite knowledge, you should know how to send and receive Bitcoin transactions, and you should be running a node. That's pretty much it. So with that, let's dive into installing and setting up Jam. So as I said, for this video, we're going to be utilizing the Start9 Embassy, but if you're using another node implementation, I'll kind of explain what you're doing here. You're basically going to your marketplace or app store and looking for the Jam app. So for example, here on my Start9 Embassy, I can go to marketplace and either I can browse through the specific different genres of apps. So if I go to Bitcoin, I can see Jam is up in the top right here, or I can use the search function to find the app of my choice. I can type in Jam and it should come up there. When I see it and I click on it, I'll be brought to this page that describes what it is and what the latest release is. It says view installed here, but if it's not currently installed, which it is in this instance, then it will give you the install option. So you just install it there. It also lists any dependencies or other applications that are required for Jam to work. In this case, I just have to have Bitcoin Core, or aka my Bitcoin node, up and running in order for it to function. So with all that working, it now works and I can actually utilize Joinmarket. So from my services page, or in some instances from your apps page, your installed apps, you can click on Jam, and here it has like a quick launch little button off to the right, or I can click on it and then hit launch UI. Either one, it will open up a brand new browser tab for me, and it looks like this. This is our starting page for Jam, so we're going to go through the process of setting it up. All right, so right here, we're going to hit Get Started. And it says, welcome to Jam for Joinmarket. Jam is an interface for Joinmarket, a privacy-focused software solution that aims to improve the confidentiality and privacy of your Bitcoin transactions. Its main focus is to facilitate the creation of collaborative transactions through a peer-to-peer marketplace. Collaborative transactions. To have strong privacy guarantees in the open and transparent world of Bitcoin, special kinds of transactions have to be created. Jam helps you create these transactions in an easy and automated way. You are in control. Jam is fully non-custodial. That's important to note, meaning that you always have full control of your funds. Joinmarket uses Bitcoin's smart contracts. Yes, Bitcoin does have smart contracts to make sure that all transactions are atomic and your funds are secure at all times. Meaning, again, you never leave your Bitcoin with anyone else at any point in this process, just so you know. No trusted third parties. Since Joinmarket is a peer-to-peer system, trusted third parties are eliminated from the get-go. This unique market-driven approach reduces counterparty risk to a minimum and privacy for all. Joinmarket is free and open source software without a single point of failure. Everyone is free to extend it, tinker with it, inspect it, distribute it, and build upon it. And of course, you are free to use it to improve the privacy of yourself and others. Thus, the ability of the Jam app to be created. Let's go. All right, and we now arrive at our first screen where we're going to create a new wallet. So I'm going to hit Create New Wallet. We're going to give it a name. We'll just call it Test Sessions. Now we're going to choose a secure password. So I'll type in something here and another one. And then we're going to hit Create. All right, so we're brought to the next screen where it says wallet created successfully. Please write down your seed phrase and password. Without this information, you will not be able to access and recover your wallet. So here I have a list of 12 English words, my seed phrase, and my password that I typed in. If you click this little toggle switch, it will reveal the words, and then you can continue. Now, obviously, I won't be revealing these words here, but I will be writing them down, and then we'll move on to the next screen. So when you're ready, you hit this toggle switch, it will reveal them. Do not share these words with anyone. If somebody has these words, it's like giving them the keys to your money, the keys to your vault that holds your Bitcoin. So keep it away from prying eyes, keep it safe, keep it secret, and we'll see you at the next screen. After writing down my words, I've now hidden the secret information again. I'm going to click I've written down the information above, and I'm going to hit Next. At this point, wallet created successfully. Again, please write down your seed phrase, and then you're going to confirm them. So it says confirm seed phrase backup, each word in sequential order. So we're going to go 1 through 12, and then we're going to hit fund wallet when we're finished. So we'll be right back. After typing in my words and hitting fund wallet, it brings us to our main screen and a pop-up, which is our cheat sheet. And this is kind of, it shows the walkthrough or the process through which you will interact with the Jam app. So it says, follow the steps below to increase your financial privacy. It is advisable to switch from earning as a market maker and sending as a taker back and forth. And we'll go into that in a moment. But step 1, fund your wallet. Deposit some funds yourself or receive it from others. Step 2, send a collaborative transaction to another jar. Collaborative transactions increase the privacy of yourself and others. Step 3, which is optional, lock funds in a fidelity bond. A fidelity bond increases your chances of earning sats substantially through the earn option, which is next. Step 4, earn sats by providing liquidity. Offer liquidity to the marketplace for a fee. No trust or custody required. You are always in full control of your funds. Step 5, schedule sweep transactions to empty your wallet. Automatically execute a series of collaborative transactions. You can sweep your funds to cold storage or use them to open Lightning channels. And step 7, rinse and repeat. Still confused? Dig into our docs. So with looking through the cheat sheet, I wanted to actually take a look at something from the docs here. and from the cheat sheet. And this kind of gives a little bit more insight into what's happening here. So it says, while everyone will use Jam differently, here is one way you can think about general application flow. Some of your UTXOs, and a UTXO is like a piece of Bitcoin that you received in a transaction, might be chunky and identifiable, like whole or large pieces of fruit. Once you make delicious jam out of them, they are less chunky and less identifiable. You are free to offer your fruits to others so they can make jam more easily and without the fruity metaphor. To increase the privacy and fungibility of your funds, and thus your security overall, you should use Jam as both a market maker and a taker, so the earn and send tabs. Use a jar's sweep functionality or the scheduler to transfer funds out of Jam, or to move your funds to cold storage, or to use them for lightning channels. If you want to pay others for goods and services, use the send tab. All right, and it goes through, you can go further into the receive, send, earn, sweep, all of these in their docs, and I will link those down below, but we'll analyze what we're doing as we do it here from our main screen. So this is our interface. Let's go through and talk about what we see in front of us. Okay, so this is our main screen, all right? It will give the wallet name up in the top left, as well as a balance in Bitcoin, which you can change to sats if I'm not mistaken. And then you have subsequent tabs down the line. You have a receive screen, which shows you Bitcoin addresses. You have a send screen that allows you to send transactions out to external addresses or into other jars, and we'll get into the jar analogy momentarily. There's the earn page, where this is where you would offer up your Bitcoins to help anonymize other people's Bitcoin and partake in transactions and thus make small fees from those transactions. You can also create fidelity bonds, which is more or less a way of locking up some Bitcoin to show that you're serious about using Joinmarket and you're going to be sticking around. And then finally, the sweep function allows you to sweep Bitcoin out of some or all of your wallets in a private way. Okay, so we will be going through all of this. And to navigate back to your main screen, you just click on the wallet name in the top left, test sessions or whatever you've named it right there. You also have receive and send buttons there. And if you do the drop down, it will show your jars, and we'll get into how they function momentarily as well. And then finally, in the top right, there's a little settings wheel. And so you have things like hide balance, display amount in sats. Yes, please. Please, I want to see sats instead. Sats are the standards. You can switch to a light theme, which, good God, why would you want to do that to yourself? Anyways, you can change fee limits. You can look at the logs. You can show your seed phrase if you need to rewrite it down. You can lock the wallet, switch wallet, create a new wallet. So you can have more than one Joinmarket wallet sitting here in the Jam app. And then they have also their Twitter, their Telegram, all that stuff in here. So that's where all your settings are. And yeah, we just navigate back to the main screen. Let's get going. Let's do step number 1. So the first thing we want to use here is the receive screen, or even from the main screen hitting the receive button, it takes us to the same place, the same tab. And you're going to see a Bitcoin address, a scannable QR code, or you can copy the address down below. So we need to send funds first to the wallet before we can begin to utilize Jam to break those links and anonymize my coins. So I'm going to be using a desktop wallet called Sparrow wallet. Again, I mentioned before, but there's a tutorial for it down in the show notes if you're curious. I'm going to hit copy. I'm going to copy that address, and I'll jump over here to my next screen. This is my tutorial wallet here that I've got some funds in. I'm going to hit send. I'm going to paste in that address that I just copied. It's good to double check the first and last few digits to make sure you have the same address. I'll give it a label. It's going to Jam. And how many sats do I want to send over? Let's see here. Let's do around, I don't know, 700,000 sats. We'll go with that for now. Okay. So I'm going to hit create transaction, finalize for signing, sign, and broadcast. So that'll be sent off. If you're using a more simplistic wallet, it could be as simple as scan the QR code, put in the amount, and hit send. Again, Sparrow, a little bit more advanced, a lot more options there, a lot more versatility, but I digress. Nonetheless, I am sending funds from Sparrow Wallet over to Jam. So we'll be back in a sec when that lands. So I can now see that my transaction has showed up, albeit there are still confirmations required on it. So I can see, and by the way, you may need to refresh your screen to see it popping up. I just navigated back to my main screen here. But if I hit the down arrow, I can now look, and here's my jars that I was alluding to before. And I have 700,000 sats in my jar. And if I hover over it, it says, look inside, and I can click here. And so what this shows me is that, hey, I've got some funds sitting in this jar or this wallet that have been received. Okay, so this is the address, and it looks like there are no confirmations yet. Now, it's important to note, before moving on to the next step in anonymizing coins and so on and so forth, it's important to note that you need 5 confirmations before partaking in a collaborative transaction. So we're going to wait for 5 confirmations. We can see 0 here. There's a little wheel that will fill up. And after 5, we can then move in to doing some coin joins with our peers. And we'll take a look further into that jar analogy momentarily once that happens. So it's been some time now. We've now had many confirmations, more than the 5 that we needed. If I click on the jar, our deposit jar, which has our confirmed transaction now, we can see that the wheel is now full. We've had 8 confirmations, so we're more than good to go. So at this point, we can start jumping in and doing collaborative transactions. Really quick, let's take a look at what we have here, though. So effectively, we've got different jars in which we can place our jam or our UTXOs or our Bitcoin. All right. And so with the metaphor that was created in their docs there, I've deposited a UTXO or a piece of Bitcoin that could be identifiable, meaning perhaps that 700,000 sats was a withdrawal from an exchange, which has my name in some way tied to it. Somebody would be able to look at that and say, okay, well, Ben bought $700,000 or dollars. Yeah, I wish. 700,000 sats, sent it to his wallet. We see it sitting there, and now we can watch to see what he does next with it. But not so fast. Not if you utilize something like Jam. So what we're going to do is we're now going to hit the send button or go to the send screen. So let's do that. We go to the send screen. And then it says, hey, you can use a collaborative transaction for increased security and privacy. And it says send from. So it gives a drop-down menu of what address or sorry, what jar you want to send from. And we're going to send from our deposit jar, which was the apricot jar. And then it says, hey, where do you want to send it to? So I could utilize this to send to spend to a person. So if somebody wanted a transaction of I had to pay something, I could do it this way. Or I can send to one of my other jars, and in the process do a collaborative transaction, which takes a whole bunch of other people that are also sending Bitcoin, and it puts them all together. It's kind of like if you sat in a room and everybody threw their $20 bills on a table, and then everybody grabbed out a $20 bill, so that you all have the same amount of money in the end, but you have a different bill. So there's no definitive way to prove which $20 bill was originally yours now. And then for people on the outside looking in, they then go, well, okay, well, there's the bill, but which one of these is now Ben's? And I don't know where he's gonna, I have like 10 possibilities here of whose money that could be, and now I got to track them all. It just becomes very difficult to kind of spy on somebody's personal transactions, which is what we're going after. So in order to send to myself and just kind of break those links between this UTXO and myself, under recipient, there's an option where you click on the jars and you say, okay, well, I've got money in apricot. I want to send to blueberry. And I just click on that jar and it's now selected and I hit confirm. Okay, so it's sending from one jar to another. And then it says, how much do you want to send? You can send a specific amount, or you can just sweep the whole amount into this jar. So I'm going to sweep the whole amount. I'm going to hit sweep. All right, so 700,000 sats. I want to basically break the link of all of that money into another jar, so I know that's all kind of cut and dry. Now, it says it gives the option to toggle switch to send as a collaborative transaction. All right, this improves the privacy of yourself and others. And it says, how many collaborators would you like? Highest number is better for privacy, but it also increases the transaction fee. I'm going to pick the middle ground here of the options given. I'm going to do 9 collaborators. I could click on other potentially and bump it up or down. Nonetheless, we're good to go. So I'm going to hit 9 there. I'm going to hit send. And it says, hey, you're going to send from jar A, and you're going to send to this recipient, which is myself. We know we picked our own jar. We're going to sweep 700,000 sats. The mining fee is using an estimate for inclusion in the next 3 blocks. And there's going to be 9 collaborators. Now, there is a collaborator fee. It says this value represents a maximum upper limit. The actual fee is likely to be much lower. So it is economical to do in a lot of cases. Doing like a larger transaction makes it a little bit better because the miner fee, the transaction fee on the network is typically it doesn't really matter the amount that you're sending. It's how many UTXOs, how much data, all that kind of stuff. So it can be a little bit more economical to send larger amounts. Nonetheless, we're going to go ahead with this and we're going to hit confirm, and then we'll see what the fee ends up being in the end. Okay, so I'll hit confirm. It says a collaborative transaction is currently in progress. You can hit abort before it does actually get broadcast. Right now, they're looking for collaborators that would like to partake in this transaction. And we'll go from there. Some of the people will be people that are doing the send function like myself, and others will be people doing the earn function, in which they effectively offer up their Bitcoin to create transactions with people like myself in order to make it more confusing for people on the outside looking in, saying, geez, there's a lot of Bitcoin going into this one transaction and going back out. I don't know whose is whose. So we will come back as this transaction gets put together and begins to execute, and we'll see how our progress goes from there. So when your transaction does execute, you'll see a change in the send screen, and it will pop up a message saying, to execute a collaborative transaction, you need UTXOs with 5 or more confirmations in the source jar. Select another jar to send from, or fund this jar and wait 5 blocks. And the reason for that is because your transaction has executed. And so the default screen here, where it's trying to send from my apricot jar, well, there's no longer funds in there. It's been moved because I have sent to another jar that resides within my wallet. So we're going to jump over here to my main screen. And we now see our balance is sitting at 669,969 sats. So we ended up spending, around 30,000 sats for that collaborative transaction. If I do the drop down here, we can see all of those funds now reside in my blueberry jar. So what happened between those 2 jars? Well, I had money in my apricot jar, and those were my chunky bits of fruit, my chunky UTXOs that were identifiable, perhaps. And I wanted to make some jam with them. So I took my fruit and I combined it with other people's fruit, and we mashed it all up. And then we split it into our jars so that we all have less chunky, less identifiable jam in, for me, my blueberry jar. And so if I go into the blueberry jar, I can see I have a single UTXO of around 670,000 sats. It's already got a confirmation there. And then it also gives me, there are tags that show here in the description, and it says Coinjoin out. So that means that it was part of a Coinjoin transaction that was then deposited to this particular address. I can click on details here and it gives me more information. It gives me the UTXO ID so I can look it up online. It gives me the address that it's deposited to, the path, the value, all of this other, how many confirmations, which jar, all that kind of stuff. What I want to do here is I want to take a look and examine online what happened in the transaction itself. So we're going to take a look at a block explorer here and see what's up. So I'm back here on my Start9 Embassy, and I actually am also running my own copy of mempool. So mempool.space is a way of being able to look up transactions, look up the mempool, see what is waiting in the mempool to be confirmed. And the reason why you might want to run this yourself is because if you visit it on the web and you look up a transaction, well, there could be some IP tracking there, and somebody could say, somebody at this IP address is looking up this transaction, meaning it might belong to them. But if you're using your own copy of the Bitcoin blockchain and you look something up, then you don't have that problem. So I'm going to open up mempool.space here. Okay. And let's go to Joinmarket. We'll get the details of this transaction. I'm just going to copy this UTXO. Okay. By the way, here at the end, the colon and the 12, that is actually which output is mine. So I'm, obviously doxing the transaction here, and which one is mine in this instance. But if you weren't privy to this information here, you wouldn't necessarily know whose is whose. So anyways, I'm going to paste in the transaction ID. I'm going to look it up. Okay, let's see what we have here. We'll show everything that happened. Okay, so here are the various inputs. So those are people like myself putting in some Bitcoin to this transaction. So mine should be pretty easy to spot here. Mine should be 700,000 sats here. So showing them all, there we go. There's my UTXO right there. Wonderful. So all of these UTXOs were put into this transaction. People took their Bitcoin and together spent them in a single transaction. And then that output a whole bunch of other UTXOs. Now, the interesting part is that a bunch of these UTXOs moving out were for the same value. So take a look at this. 669,969, 669,969. So let's count how many of those there are with the exact same output value. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 outputs of the exact same value. Now we know from the information on my Jam app that we were output number 12. So you would go down here and count to 12. And actually the way it counts is the first one would be 0. And then you would go 1, 2, 3, all the way up to number 12. So I'm somewhere around here. One of these is mine. But nonetheless, and actually we can find out because the address ends with 2JY. And so there's mine right there. So that was my UTXO. However, if you didn't have that information, like it tells me in my app, but it doesn't show that to the public, you would have trouble deciphering, okay, well, which one of these 669,969 is the individuals who put in. And it would be very difficult to tell which was mine, and therefore you wouldn't then be able to see what I do with it next. Did I go and buy groceries? Did I go and buy, some gift cards? What did I do with it? You don't really know. You've got a 1 in 10 chance of finding out, and that's if I don't enter another collaborative transaction afterwards, which you can do from Jam just as a regular spend. So very, very interesting there. So in the end now, jump back to Jam here. Again, I now have this UTXO sitting in here, this amount, which is no longer explicitly linked to myself. And that's kind of the purpose of what you're doing here with this collaborative transaction. So that's not all to cover when it comes to the send function. Of course, you can still also send out of your wallet to a regular external address. And so let's take a look at how that would work. So we'll hit the send button here. We will choose the jar that we want to spend from, the only one with funds in this instance. And then now we need a recipient. So we'll jump back here. This is my Sparrow wallet that we used before. I hit the receive tab. I have a receiving address and I would copy it. Normally, I'm not going to actually send right now, but normally I would give it a label, so on and so forth. So now that I have an address, I can just paste it in right here rather than choosing one of my jars, because it's not the aim of what I'm trying to do. I'm sending it to somebody that I want to send some Bitcoin to. You would enter the amount at this point. So perhaps 100,000 sats. Okay. Well, if I want to, I can send this as a collaborative transaction. So what that would do is it would end up with 100,000 sats going out to this address, but it would also collaborate and, as before, collaborate with a number of people so that the outputs end up being the same size, and so that it's difficult to tell who sent to who and where. All right. Now, if I don't want to do that, I can also just turn that off, and it will say send without privacy improvement, and it will just send the 100,000 sats as a normal transaction without the collaboration and without the fee, so on and so forth. Okay, so those are your options. Furthermore, you can also hit sweep, and if you have multiple UTXOs, it'll combine them all. And send everything out from that particular jar. So if you do want to send, those are your options. And yeah, it would go off as a regular transaction to this address in question. But in this case, I'm not actually going to send here. I'm going to leave it as is, and we'll just go back to our main screen. Now, the other side of this equation is the Earn tab, where you partake in collaborative transactions, but you have Bitcoin sitting there ready to go, and you are offering it up to help with other people's anonymity. You're not necessarily trying to achieve it yourself, although you may have with this send function previously, but you're, again, offering your liquidity to help with breaking the links between other people and their Bitcoin. And in the process, you're charging a small fee to do so. Let's take a look at the Earn screen here. And there's a couple things that you're going to see. We touched on them earlier, but let's go a bit more in depth here. So a fidelity bond. This, I will say, is important if you actually want people to take your offers, because people want some type of assurance that you're sticking around, you're not going anywhere, you're going to be part of this ecosystem for a time. So it's a way of effectively locking up Bitcoin for a period of time before you can spend it again. It's still in your custody, but it is locked up in this quote unquote fidelity bond. It says your sats will be time locked by the Bitcoin protocol. It is impossible to move them before the bond is expired. So to configure a fidelity bond, you hit the little plus button here, and it's going to give me a little drop down, and it's giving me options in terms of how long I would like to be locked up in this particular fidelity bond and the amount that I would like to lock up. So you can see, okay, the bond expiration date, I can choose the year and the month. It defaults to about 3 months into the future, but again, you can change that as you see fit. And the longer the bond, the more attractive that is to other individuals, knowing that, hey, this person has locked up funds, they're going to be sticking around for a while. Fantastic. So let's just say I chose a time frame of April of this year, so about 3 months into the future. I hit next. I say, okay, what jar do I want the bond to be coming from? Well, it's the only one with funds at the moment. I'll choose that one. I'll hit next. And then it says, you're going to select one or more UTXOs from the jar to use for the Fidelity bond. I only have one, but you could select multiple if you had them. So I'm going to select that one. I'm going to hit next. Now it says review bond configuration. I'm going to click that. It says your sats will be time locked. Again, it's impossible to move them. We read that part. It says your configuration of the Fidelity bond is as follows. It will be locked until the 1st of May 2023. So through all of April to the 1st of May. The jar it's funded from is jar B, or my blueberry jar. The amount to be locked is 669969. So that single UTXO that I had there. And the funds will be time locked and sent to the following address. And then I can click create Fidelity bond. Now, because of time restraints and everything like that, I'm not going to create this bond right now. But just know that if you want to do the earn portion of Joinmarket, then you're probably going to want to go through this step and basically get some skin in the game so that people know that you're going to be sticking around for X amount of time and you're not just going to kind of disappear. So I'm going to hit cancel for now, but that is how you would configure it. You would send it and it would just lock up those Bitcoin until the date mentioned. Now, below, we have our start earning button. So there's a drop down that says offer options, and you can configure this as you see fit. So there's an option, relative fee, the fee to charge others as a percentage of the transaction amount. So if somebody spends or is utilizing a certain amount within a collaborative transaction, like 100,000 sats or 1,000,000 sats or whatever it may be, it's going to charge them 0.03% in this example. And then the minimum amount of sats is not the minimum amount of sats that you'll get in as part of the deal, as part of each transaction, but the minimum amount of total sats that would be utilized for the Coinjoin transaction, for the collaborative transaction. So somebody has to say, I want to do a collaborative transaction of at least 100,000 sats before you'll actually throw your hat in the ring to earn some sats. So there's the relative offer, which is what we're looking at right now, or there's the absolute offer. So you can hit this tab, and the absolute fee, it says you can set it for whatever you want, but 250 sats. This is the fee to charge others as an absolute amount denominated in sats. So no matter what, you will get 250 sats. And then the minimum amount transacted, again, how big of a transaction do you need in order to do that? So you can choose whichever you prefer, okay? And then you set these as you see fit, and then you can hit start earning. So it says, by offering liquidity to the market, you improve the privacy of yourself and others. Your sats always remain under your control and never leave your wallet. So it says it's offering sats to earn sats. And then, hey, look, it says, here's my offer. The fee is 0.03%. The minimum size is 100,000 sats. The transaction fee is effectively zero, like there's no set amount rather, because I didn't choose like the absolute amount. And then it says the maximum size, and it bases this on my UTXO size that I've offered up, and then remove some for potential on-chain fees. Okay. And then that offer is now sitting there live. Okay. So it will have a tag as to whether it's relative or absolute, whether it's a percentage or whether it's just 250 sats or whatever I set it at. And then at any point, if I want to change my offer, tweak it, or just not offer anymore, I can hit stop. Now, I will say, without a Fidelity bond, there's a good chance that your offers will not get taken, or you're going to have to undercut everybody else in order to actually get taken. From what I've heard, it's few and far between when somebody without a fidelity bond actually gets taken up on their offers. It can still take some time. My hope is that with these tutorial videos, more people will start to partake in Joinmarket, and so we'll get a more robust, deeper liquidity pool, more people playing around, learning, and a more competitive market, which would be fantastic. It's great to have more options. Yeah, and at any point, you can hit stop, and you can also say show earnings report, and obviously I've not earned anything yet, but this is where you would see it. And then just to kind of show, if I want to stop at any point, I hit the stop button. Okay, it's stopping right now. Fantastic. On the other side, we can also take a look at the order book. And so this is orders that are kind of on the table currently. So you can get a better handle on what other people are offering. So you can see here all of these different orders, you know, 0.0001%. And so there's some pretty low ones in there. And then you also see which ones are relative or absolute, like this person's charging literally 1 sat or 10 sats or 25 sats. So it is quite low and quite competitive. You're not going to be paying a ton for these. But then also you need to see if there are actual fidelity bonds for them. Okay, so like a lot of these, are there, yeah, even if they have a fidelity bond, perhaps it's relatively low. And you can change based on the size of the fidelity bond. Okay, well, this person seems to be pretty serious. They've got a fee of 0.002%. The minimum size is just over 100,000 sats, but the maximum size is 60. Is that right? Oh my God, is 60 Bitcoin. So that person's not messing around. Wow, good for them. And the one beyond is 157 Bitcoin is the maximum size. So yeah, there are some whales playing around in here offering. And I mean, if you get that kind of an offer, then you're making pretty good bang for your buck. This person is charging just shy of 1%. Now, whether or not that gets taken is a whole other story. But you get an idea of based on what people are locking up, and what their fees might be and the maximum size they're offering, kind of what the market looks like. And you can hit all of these different values to kind of see, okay, well, who's got the lowest or highest fees, like 2,500 sats absolute. So yeah, there's lots of ways to sort through this. You can take a look through and just get a better idea of the market so you can better set your fees based on what you're offering and your maximum and minimums and your fidelity bond and all of that. So that is how the earn function works. You can just set it, forget it, leave it. If you don't get any offers, whatever, your money's still in your wallet. If you do, fantastic, you earn some sats in the process. So yeah, pretty easy to kind of set it and forget it. Now, one other awesome feature that has been integrated into the Jam app is the sweep function. Now, I'm not talking about when we went to the send tab and we were doing collaborative and we just hit sweep so that it took everything from a particular jar. The sweep function here, or the sweep tab, actually takes all of the funds from all of your jars and sends them out in an interesting way. So let's take a look at that tab. So when I go to the sweep tab, it says scheduled sweep. Still experimental, still early days on this one, but it says execute multiple transactions using random amounts and time intervals to increase the privacy of yourself and others. Every scheduled transaction is a collaborative transaction. So this will take, again, everything from the whole wallet. So if I had funds in different jars that I had been doing collaborative transactions with, and you know they were all sitting there, it would take everything. I want to clear out my Jam app, okay? And then it says the scheduler will send all available funds to multiple destinations, splitting them up in random chunks. And it allows you to provide 3 different destination addresses. Now, before we provide the addresses and take a look at what happens here, first I want to show down below adjust fees and limits, because this is not we'll say it's not a particularly cheap way of doing things, but it is a relatively private way of doing things. And it has the added benefit of skirting something called time analysis, where people look at the timing of transactions on the blockchain and try to draw things that correlate to try and paint a picture of who owns what. The random scheduling gets around even that type of analysis, which is super interesting. So if I hit adjust fees and limits before I go and I take a look at the transaction itself, you can set the limits on mining fees and collaborator fees. So mining fees are on chain, obviously, just regular transaction fees. And you can set this by sats per byte or by block target. So block target, I'd like it to, settle within or be added to the blockchain within 3 blocks. Okay, so that would be based on the fee. And it says, random fees improve privacy. The percentage is done as a plus or minus around the base fee. Example, if you set a base fee of 10 sats, the randomization at 30%, the value would be between 7 and 13 sats per byte used. So if I have a base fee of 3 sats per byte and a margin of error of 20%, then it won't even go up by a full sat. So it'd have to be like 33% to potentially go up to 4 sats per byte or down to 2 sats per byte. So it's a percentage of the sats per byte, not a percentage of your transaction. And then you can just set flat your sats per byte. So again, it says 3 here, and again, it can go up and down per there. Okay. And so, sorry, I should clarify, it's block target. It could be 1 or less blocks away from that target of 3. And here it could be 1 or so, depending on the percentage. It could be 4 sats per byte. It could be 2 sats per byte. But they randomize it to make it less obvious whose transactions are whose. So nonetheless, you can tinker around with that and save them if you see fit. I'm not going to mess around with this right now. I'll X out of it. We need 3 addresses. So I'm going to go ahead, and this could be to different wallets, to the same wallet, doesn't matter. I'm going to send it all to Sparrow wallet, to my test tutorial wallet that I have open. But just know if you want it in different locations, it will be randomized, the amounts, but you can do that if you see fit. So I'll just do this, jam1, and I'll copy that address, and I'll paste it here. I'll generate a new address. This is my receive screen on Sparrow. Jam2, copy that address, and I'll paste it in. And I'll generate one more address, Jam3, copy that, and paste it in. There we go. Okay, so we've got our 3 receiving addresses where we're going to get basically we're going to be splitting this almost 670,000 sats minus transaction fees, minus collaborator fees. So it will kind of whittle away at it a little bit. If it was a larger chunk, maybe not quite as bad. But hey, take one for the team so that people can learn and use Jam. So we're going to hit Start Scheduler. And it says, hey, scheduled sweep. 9 transactions over 13 hours. So note, obviously, this takes some time. And that is the to skirt the timing analysis mechanism. So you can see, all right, well, I'm going to have a transaction coming up, pretty soon here. And then there's going to be a long wait. There'll be a transaction, and then one shortly thereafter, a bit of a wait. Transaction, wait, transaction. So it'll be split apart. So I've got 13 hours to kill. I will come back after these have been executed tomorrow. And we'll see you then. And we'll take a look at what has happened throughout that process. All right, so it is the next day. And we've had some progress here. We can now see basically this screen here as it is primed for a ready full sweep. If we wanted to do another, obviously we've swept all of the funds out of our wallet at this point. So you can see again, it gives us the warning, hey, you need UTXOs with 5 or more confirmations because there are none to pull from. We're back to where we started. If I go to my main screen here, we can see a balance of 0 sats. I can drop down and there's nothing in any of my jars. I can tell you that as we went through the process of doing those different transactions. Now, I want to show something here that I have, and this is just a screenshot. But remember, we were looking, there was going to be 9 transactions to process. Now, not all of those transactions had anything to do with going directly to that external wallet. That was just the final resting place of a few UTXOs. What actually happened, and here's another screenshot that I took, is it popped between my various jars. So collaborative transactions going out of the one that it was in, which was blueberry, into cherry, into date, into elderberry, into apricot. So we saw a number of transactions happen in the process of this full sweep. And then I ended with the following transactions coming in: 145,000, 146 around there, 236,000 and 147,000 sats. And these, there's the withdrawal when I funded Jam. These ones are old ones when I was experimenting before this video, but nonetheless, there's our 3 UTXOs coming in, and those were the 3 addresses that we provided. So we successfully swept everything from here in a privacy-centric way. Now, it's important to note that I had a single UTXO sitting there that I did the sweep function for. You do not need to do it that way. I would say it's most useful to use the sweep function when you have multiple UTXOs across multiple jars sitting in your Jam app. And the reason I say that is a single UTXO to do that sweep function, it's expensive because that one UTXO of whatever it was at the time I withdrew. I remember I started with 700,000 sats. Then I did a collaborative transaction that cost me, 30,000 sats or whatever it is. But then the sweep function was expensive because you got to think there were 9 collaborative transactions that took place there. And so again, I would advise to probably use that function in the process of sweeping all of your jars. If you have UTXOs spread out amongst them and of differing sizes, then it'll be a bit more economical. If you just got a single one, then it's probably better to just go to the send screen, choose the jar, and then enter the amount, or hit the sweep amount just for that particular jar, and it'll just be a single withdrawal transaction. So those are my thoughts there, but it is kind of convenient if you're just looking to wipe everything out of this wallet in a privacy-centric way and you don't trust yourself to execute all those individual transactions. This just automates it for it, automates everything for it, and deals with time analysis, deals with splitting up UTXOs into different receive wallets, an all-around pretty decent solution for sweeping your wallet. And when we look at the now confirmed UTXOs, we can get a little bit more information. It actually breaks it down here in the transaction within Sparrow. So I can see kind of an overview of everything here of where it went. And also you can take a look and you can see, hey, well, my UTXO was 147,005 sats. And you see all of the different UTXOs that went to different individuals that also received the same amount. So the same mechanism of output values being the same to kind of mask whose is whose. And I can also, again, copy the transaction ID, and I can use my copy of mempool on my embassy to look it up there. And we get the same kind of information, and we can see there's all the different UTXOs, 147,005 sats, and all the way down, we can kind of analyze the transaction and see. And it's the same story for the other ones too. So if I look into the other transaction, this one was, what was it, 236,000 sats, and you can see the multiple outputs with the same number involved. Yeah, so everything more or less anonymized, links broken between myself and my withdrawals from Jam. So a few final thoughts here. Again, Jam, I think, is a really cool tool. I'm glad to see Joinmarket becoming accessible to, we'll say, kind of like mid-level Bitcoin users. Because, I mean, you do have to be running a Bitcoin node, and there's a lot of Bitcoiners that haven't taken that step yet. And if you're watching this and you haven't, then I encourage you to, because there's nothing better for a learning tool than running a node and asking the questions that comes with doing that. But nonetheless, exciting to see more privacy tools being brought to the masses through tools like Jam, and making Joinmarket accessible, making more liquidity available to people to be able to, again, preserve the privacy of their coins and their transactions. I think that the initial use of it can be a little confusing. Like when I first took a look at it, I was like, what are these jars? And it was confusing. I like the metaphor that they use in, you know, having the chunky bits of fruit and then mashing them into jam so that it's unclear which chunks of fruit are in which jars. I think that's kind of a fun metaphor for what you're doing here. I would love to see, and maybe they already do have it, but I'd love to see more documentation on best practices sending out of Jam and kind of moving forward, like little notes of like, hey, if you do this, just be aware that somebody may know that these coins came from these coins, or just general kind of post-mix behaviors that help you have best practices after the fact. So yeah, I love Jam. I'm super happy with where it is right now. I'm excited to continue to see it grow. And one of the more exciting things is I'm really happy that it's going live on so many different node implementations. Like Start9 is kind of my node of choice now, just because of their ethos and what they're building and what they're doing. But I will say that seeing it available on Raspberry Blitz and Umbrel and MyNode and Citadel, that's fantastic. And I'd love to see it on even more. But this is a great tool. It's a great learning tool. And it's, in my opinion, an awesome, another kind of tool in the arsenal, another weapon in the arsenal to ensure that you're preserving your privacy. So yeah, give it a go. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. And did I miss anything? Is there anything you're unclear on? I'm learning just as much as you guys. So I love your questions. I love your comments. So yeah, continue to leave them. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, please do like, subscribe, share, all those things, super important. They help get this content in front of more eyeballs, and I thank you all for doing it so often. If you want to help out the show in another way, you can hit up the previously mentioned sponsors in the links down below. Those were CoinKite, Start9, HodlHodl, and Privacy Pros for the Bill Fodl. Also, if you're looking for some hand holding on whatever it may be, maybe you're diving into self-custody or multi-sig or more privacy stuff or really anything, I can always help you out. If the free tutorials are not enough and you need that one-on-one back and forth, then head over to my website, btcsessions.ca. You can book private sessions through there. And finally, if you really liked what you saw, you can always drop me a Bitcoin tip at my Strike page. That is strike.me/BTC sessions. Head there, type in any amount you want. You don't need to have Strike to use it. You hit the tip button, you'll be greeted with a Lightning invoice, or if you prefer, tap to the right, you'll see a regular Bitcoin QR code. With that, I am out. Have yourselves a wonderful day or evening. I'll see you guys next time for your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.